So this derp Subaru gets to live the dream life of many anime viewers. What do I even mean? The buffoon gets summoned into a fantasy world, but he doesn't last 13 seconds like my girlfriend's ex because he is defeated almost immediately. He somehow manages to come back to life and start simping for the same girl who got him isekai'd. Trust me guys, it's even more ridiculous than I make it sound. It was a regular night, and Subaru was at his local convenience store reading manga and buying stuff. Suddenly, he started having flashes of some spooky things, but he chucked it up to being so long in his room gaming all day. Yeah, I usually see some scary stuff once I stand up from a 12-hour gaming session too, like 10 missed calls from my girlfriend. When he left the store, he wiped his eyes, and in the literal blink of an eye, he was in another world. Strangely enough, he didn't seem fazed by it. In fact, he went around like it was his everyday life, but he soon realized just how much he stood out after stumbling into the women's bathroom and entering a demi-human-only bar, which led to him falling into a river. That's a pretty rough start. While he was ranting about having a horrible start in this new life, a couple of thugs came to mug him. Come on, give this guy a break. As they were mugging him, a girl ran toward them. Subaru thought she was the cute girl who summoned him, but she was just a thief and ran off, leaving him with the muggers. Subaru thought he could use some crazy power-up and beat down the thugs, which seemed to be working, but once they brought out the knives, he fell to his knees and started begging. They started kicking him around. Then suddenly, another beautiful girl came. She asked for the whereabouts of her insignia, but the muggers told her it was another girl. Before she left, she took care of the muggers, and even healed Subaru. She just met this guy, and she's doing all this for him. Maybe Subaru isn't so unlucky after all. Once Subaru woke up, she questioned him about the girl thief, and once she established that he didn't know she left. But Subaru knew that someone as kind as her wouldn't last long in the harsh world. So, he followed her to help find the thief. They searched the whole capital and didn't find anything. After a while, they rested at a balcony. And while they were talking, they both realized they hadn't introduced themselves. Subaru went first. The spirit rabbit called himself Puck, and the girl introduced herself as Satella. After introductions, they went back to finding the girl. They weren't making any progress, but Satella noticed a small girl who was lost. She went to help her, but it didn't go so well, so Subaru came in and did some magic tricks to cheer her up. After holding hands with the girl and guiding her to her mother, Subaru and Satella continued their search. But it was getting late, and they were making no headway. The genius Subaru suggested they go back to the crime scene and look for clues there. When they got there, Subaru met the shopkeeper he ran into earlier, but the man wasn't happy to see Subaru. Apparently, he hates broke people. Well, I already know I won't get along well with that man. The man was chasing them out of his shop when his wife came along with his daughter. Turns out, the girl Subaru helped was the man's daughter. What a coincidence. The man quickly switched up his attitude and agreed to help them. He told them. The girl thief's name was Felt, and she usually stayed in the slums. So, they went off to the slums. The slums were as shady as you'd imagine, but they kept searching anyway. After a while of turning up nothing, Satella decided to talk to the lesser spirits for help. Subaru and Satella kept searching around the slums for Felt. They were heading in the general direction where the lesser spirits told Satella to go. It led them to a shop run by an old man. Subaru told Satella to wait outside while he checked the place out. Alpha male type movement. I see you, Subaru. As soon as he got in, he saw a dead man on the floor, but before he could properly think of what to do next, he got hit by something and heard a voice from the darkness. Subaru bled out on the floor. Satella, who grew anxious waiting, came in to check on Subaru and got defeated for it. Subaru reached out to her and, with his dying breath, swore that he'd protect her. Suddenly, he woke up at the beginning of the day again. He was at the shop of the man who hates broke guys. Subaru couldn't understand what was going on, but he didn't let that slow him down. He started running toward the shop where he got defeated. Those unwise muggers stopped him again, but this time he dispatched them very quickly and continued running. When he got to the old man's shop, he banged on the door and surprisingly, the old man came out. The man invited him in and they both sat down. Subaru was trying to make small talk. Not sure why though, considering the killer could come back at any point. After sizing up the old man, Ram, he asked if he had the insignia. Ram said that he didn't, but was expecting a good haul of loot later on. So, Subaru went outside to wait for Felt. Once she came, he tried talking to her casually, but she didn't recognize him. But all that was irrelevant. They went inside to talk, and Felt showed them the insignia. Felt asked Subaru to pay up if he wanted it, but he told them he was flat broke. I've never seen someone so proud to be broke. Instead, he asked them to trade it for his cell phone. He told them it was a different kind of magic that could freeze moments in time, and they fell for it. Hook, line, and sinker. Well, everything seemed to have worked out, and Subaru was about to claim his prize. But Felt decided to wait until the other buyer came and sell it to the highest bidder. Ugh, what a pain in the butt. I can already tell this won't end well. The other buyer came after a while. Her name was Elsa. Felt explained the situation to Elsa, and after hearing it, she showed that she wasn't there to play either. She offered 20 holy coins for the insignia, but Rom refused her offer, saying that Subaru's cell phone was more valuable. That's a smart man right there. Elsa was disappointed, but she decided to withdraw and leave. Once again, everything seemed to have worked out, but Subaru just had to ruin it with his stupid mouth. Before Elsa left, she asked what Subaru would do with the insignia, and this dummy said he'd find the owner and give it back. You're in the midst of a thief, a scam artist, and an unknown enemy. Why would you say something so naive and stupid? Of course, Elsa heard that and immediately switched up. See? I knew this wouldn't end well. Rom stood up to challenge her, but she sliced his arm off and choked him with his own cup. Felt rushed in but got cut up straight away. Subaru tried his heroics, but in the end, even though he landed a good hit on her, she still defeated him anyway. After he died, he saw himself back at the apple shop again. After Subaru woke up, he passed out almost immediately. The shopkeeper poured water on him to wake him up and even offered him food. But in that moment, he saw Satella and ran toward her, calling out her name, and snatched her insignia from her. Satella accused Subaru of working with her and ran off to catch her. Subaru went back into the same dark alley, and the same muggers showed up, slowly died. When he woke up, he was in front of the apple shop again. This time, he calmly analyzed things. He realized that he had a time leap ability. The messy part about the ability was that it got triggered only by death. So he decided to just sell off his items and live the rest of his days in luxury, free from danger. But he remembered that Satella took the time to help him even when it didn't concern or affect her. He couldn't just leave her to her fate. That's beta male behavior. So he ran to the market square to try and stop the theft, but he was too late. So he went to the alley to try and catch Felt and buy it before she went to run. Tired of seeing their faces, especially the one with the knife. I hope he falls on it. But instead of beating them down like he did, he screamed for the guards. One guard came, a man named Reinhard. The muggers ran away as soon as they saw him. Subaru thanked him for his help and asked him to tell Satella to stay away from the loot house and that he'd bring the insignia back to her. Subaru went to the slums to find Felt, but he bumped into Elsa. She could smell the fear coming from him, but she decided to just walk away. After that traumatic run-in, he went to Felt's house. She wasn't home, but she came there not long after, but after a while, Subaru got a word in and told her he wanted to buy the insignia. He showed her the cell phone he wanted to trade it for, but she wouldn't believe it unless Rom appraised it in front of her. When they showed it to Rom, he concurred with Subaru's value tag, but Felt was still hesitant to sell it. What cautious? What an annoying brat, the owner. Just then, someone knocked on the door, ignored him and did it anyway. To his surprise, it was Satella at the door. Subaru was shocked to see the silver-haired girl, but it didn't matter. The silver-haired girl brought out a few icicles to threaten Felt so she'd give up the insignia. Subaru urged Felt to give it to her, but just then, Subaru quickly noticed a blade about to hit the silver-haired girl, so he called out to Puck to shield her. The shield blocked the attack successfully, but who the hell walks into a house and starts swinging blades? Well, turns out it was Elsa. She's really starting to piss me off with those blades of hers. Elsa was surprised that the silver-haired girl used spirit magic, but all she could think of was how she'd dissect the spirit and see its guts on some Jeffrey Dahmer-type movements. Subaru started yapping at Elsa, but he was really buying time for Puck to gather a spell together and attack. Puck started to attack Elsa, but she was way too fast to be pinned down with ice. Old Man Rom stood up to join in the attack, but he didn't do much to help. In fact, he got isekai'd fairly quickly. Puck had to go because his contract ended by 5. So the silver-haired girl sent him off and continued fighting with Elsa. Subaru was in the corner acting like an older brother. He told Felt to run after he created an opening. It's crazy how this all started because Felt couldn't just do business properly, and now she gets to just run away and live? Nah, I'm an advocate for gender equality. She should stay. Felt managed to safely get out, so it was down to Subaru and the silver-haired girl. Elsa had grown bored of their fight, so she tried ending things quickly. Subaru lunged at her and tried a sneaky move, but Elsa caught it and was about to kill him. Then suddenly, someone burst through the roof. It was Reinhard. Reinhard heard the cries of Felt as she ran through the slums asking for help, so he came as soon as he could. Once he did, everything he did literally gave off alpha male aura. Elsa tried attacking him, and he just kicked her away like she was nothing. Then he proceeded to deliver the coldest line yet. She asked him if he was going to draw his sword, and he said that he uses his sword when the need arises, and the fact that his sword hadn't been drawn yet means it's not needed right now. Now that right there is a violation. To add insult to injury, he then picked up a regular sword and said it would be enough to suffice for her. I didn't know Reinhard could be savage like that. He fended off all her attacks while he stood in one spot as if waiting for something, and he was. The silver-haired girl was healing Ram, and she was using mana. She explained to Subaru that if Reinhard were to actually put effort into fighting her, all the mana in the area would move to him. She was not exaggerating too, because as soon as she finished healing Ram, Reinhard swung his sword and destroyed the entire house. While everyone celebrated being alive, Elsa tried another sneak attack, but Subaru blocked it, and Elsa had no other choice but to run away. Subaru then turned to the silver-haired girl, and after putting on a goofy act, he asked for her real name. She told him it was Emilia. Reinhard told Subaru he was lucky the weapon saved him, but it turns out it barely did. Emilia quickly saved him and offered to take him to her house. Reinhard, on the other hand, took a good look at Felt and suddenly grabbed her hand. He told Emilia that he'd be taking her to his house and she'd hear from him soon. So kidnapping is okay now? Subaru woke up in a fancy room and noticed his scars were gone. He went out to find Emilia, but quickly realized that the hallway was a looping one. So, he guessed, and opened a random door to find a short girl there. The girl, for some reason, was irritated by Subaru, so she zapped him to see if he was an enemy or not. Once Subaru was in pain on the floor, she walked away. Who got her ponytails in a twist? Subaru woke up later in the morning, but this time he was greeted by two beautiful maids. He was close to enacting his fantasies when Emilia came in, so he had to compose himself. Subaru thanked her for saving him, and she thanked him for risking his life for her as well. When they got out of the house, Subaru showed Emilia some calisthenics stretches for a nice morning exercise. After the exercises, Subaru made Emilia shout out in victory. Puck couldn't help but join in on the fun. He thanked Subaru for saving Emilia and offered to do anything as thanks. Subaru just told him he wanted access to pet him at any point in time, to which Puck gladly agreed. While this was happening, the maids came and called Emilia to the house, saying that the lord of the house had arrived. Once Subaru got in, he was met by Beatrice again, and they locked horns, but she got distracted by Puck and ran off with him to play. Just then, a man wearing a very colorful outfit walked in. Subaru thought he was the local clown and went up to pat the guy on the back. He was actually the lord of the house, Roswal L. Mathers. I'm pretty sure in regular times, Subaru would have had his fingers cut off for such acts, but Roswal let it slide. At the table while they ate, Roswal told Subaru about the state of things in the kingdom and how the king was absent from the throne. Subaru was still trying to soak up all this information when Emilia dropped a bomb on him. She was the next candidate to rule the entire kingdom. An even crazier one dropped right after. Remember that insignia? Well, it's supposed to be a symbol that the next potential candidate is supposed to hold. No wonder Elsa was killing for it. If she had gotten it, war would have broken out. Subaru realized that he had helped out way more than he thought, so to show his kindness, Roswal offered him any request, and Subaru told him that he wanted a job at the mansion. And, for the rest of the week, Subaru was drilled on how to clean, cook, and do other things around the house. However, he sucked at every single one of them, to the point where everything he did gave him a cut. Looks like his fingers got cut, after all. After a couple of days, one night, Subaru was with Emilia out in the fields talking and enjoying himself. Emilia noticed his wounds from working so hard and offered to heal them, but Subaru wanted to keep them as a reminder that he worked hard. They talked for a while, and Subaru invited her out on a date, and she said yes. Looks like his Riz game is still strong. He went to bed that night excited about tomorrow, but come morning, something strange happened. Subaru had reset time again, but he didn't understand how or why. He was so upset because all of what had happened before, including his promise to Emilia, had just vanished like it never happened. He ran into the forbidden library to where Beatrice was and just sat there depressed. She gave him one snarky remark after another, and suddenly, he was feeling better. Something about her attitude being the same made him feel all right. When he went outside to Emilia, she ran to him and told him she had been worried. "Oh, that's so sweet." He reassured her that he was okay and everything would be fine. With that, Subaru decided to face the day with a mind determined not to be sad about the situation. Subaru figured that if he followed the same pattern as last time, everything would happen in the same way. But he was wrong. All of his choices from last time had different outcomes each. and at some point, he found himself sharing a bath with Rosewall himself. They spoke about the maids and how one compensates for the other. When Subaru stood up to leave the bath, he met Ram, and she immediately told him to put away his sorry excuse for a man tool. Ouch. She asked him whether he'd be doing anything later, and he said no, so she said she'd come over to his room at night. Oh, hold on. Maybe she doesn't think it's so sorry after all. She probably wants a taste after seeing it. Subaru was in his room trying not to think of all the things he could do to her, but he was failing. Ram walked in and was creeped out. She went over to the corner and asked Subaru to come over. Oh, snap. Is my boy Subaru about to get some? Subaru was woodblocking himself and told Ram that he had eyes only for Amelia, but Ram just wanted to teach him how to read and write. Apparently, the more Subaru was able to do, the less the twins had to do. Well, that was anticlimactic. Subaru spent the night reading, and after a while he turned to talk to Ram, but she was already fast asleep. The next day, Subaru tried on his working clothes, and they fit perfectly. They all started working, and Subaru already cut his finger peeling the apple skins off. Rem kept looking back at Subaru. When they went out to the garden, Rem still kept looking at Subaru, so Ram spoke up and told Subaru to let Rem cut his hair. Apparently, seeing it very uneven made her uncomfortable. Later, as Subaru was cleaning the bath, Rem entered and joined him. He tried rizzing her up, but it didn't work in the slightest. After they were done cleaning, Subaru and Rem went out to get some things. Well, Rem did, actually. Subaru just played around with the kids instead, and also used the chance to scope out a nice spot for his date with Amelia. When he got home at night, the twins were tired, so Amelia took over his study session, and he was extremely nervous. I would be too if I saw Amelia in a nightgown. But Subaru didn't beat around the bush. He looked her in the eye and asked her out. First, he had to explain what a date was, but once Amelia understood what he was trying to say, she agreed to the date. Subaru tried to stay up that night to finally break the loop and go on his date with Amelia, but he suddenly started feeling sick and in pain all over. He ran across the house for help, but before he knew it, his arm was cut off and he was dying. Subaru woke up screaming and grabbing his left arm, but he soon realized that he had reset the loop again. Now it was his first day in the mansion. He went back to the library and started pacing around Beatrice while pondering what to do. As soon as he was able to break down what had happened, Beatrice sent him flying into a bush of manure. Amelia approached him just then and summoned Puck to wash him down. After creating a massive water barrage to wash Subaru off, Puck started making fun of Subaru. Yeah, sure, make fun of him because he's wet. Wait, that sounds so wrong. Subaru then started tickling and play fighting with Puck. Amelia saw this and started laughing. Turns out seeing Puck and Subaru play so carefree with each other really made her happy. While they were enjoying themselves in the garden, the twins came along to invite Amelia and Subaru to meet Rosewall. This time, when Rosewall asked Subaru what he wanted, Subaru asked to be a permanent guest at the house. He chose this so he could use the next 4 days to observe who could potentially be the killer, and who he could have a threesome with. Just kidding. Just kidding. He went around the house searching for clues, but all he found was Rosewall acting like a very creepy guy. He looks like a ripoff of X-Men's Nightcrawler. Subaru went to his room to try and gather his thoughts, but it wasn't going well. He had no leads on the culprit. He went to ask Beatrice for help. He asked her if there was a spell that could forcefully put someone to sleep and kill them. Beatrice showed him one, but told him they were referred to as curses, and that what it did was zap out the mana from a person, kind of like what she did to him when they first met. She told him that only she and Puck could do it, and not even Rosewall could. This gave Subaru some insight, but he was still without a good lead. Later in the evening, Ram walked in to serve him tea and sat down to enjoy it with him. He told her that he was getting the hang of reading and writing the children's books. He even offered to tell her a story called The Red Ogre and the Blue Ogre. After hearing it, Ram said she hated the story because of how selfish the Red Ogre was. They changed subjects, and Subaru told Ram how he now understood more of the kingdom's culture and history. But when he asked about the story of the witch, Ram refused to talk more about it and left immediately. The next day was the final day when Subaru was usually isekai'd, so he decided to leave the mansion and venture elsewhere to try and get the upper hand on the attacker. He said his goodbyes to the family, and once he was out of sight, he went into the forest to spy on Amelia's room in case something was to happen. Suddenly, a giant ball pushed Subaru over the ledge, but he had made arrangements for it and ran into an opening. He waited for the culprit to show themselves, but when they did, Subaru was heartbroken. It was Rem. Subaru was distraught by the fact that Rem was trying to kill him. He used his phone's flash to blind her temporarily and ran away, but it was no use. She caught up to him instantly and cut off his leg. As if that wasn't bad enough, she then healed the leg so she could interrogate him further. Whenever she asked him a question, she hit him with the chain. After continuously hitting him, she then had an emotional outburst. Apparently, she had assumed Subaru was working with the witch who had taken everything from her and Ram. Subaru started to cry and had an emotional outburst of his own, but Rem didn't want to hear it. So while he was talking, she put him out of his misery and isekai'd him. Wow, what a plot twist. I can barely keep up anymore. When Subaru woke up, he was met by the maids again, and he was overcome with fear. Soon after, Amelia came in to try and talk to him. She asked him to tell her what he was going through, but as soon as he tried to explain things to her, something came out of nowhere and gripped his heart with fear. He became hopeless after that, and told Amelia to just leave him alone. Man, Subaru is really going through it. Later in the day, Beatrice came in to talk to him at the request of Amelia and Puck, but he told her he was fine, and she didn't have to stay. The librarian felt somewhat offended that he thought she cared. She said something strange, though. She told Subaru that he had the stench of the witch. Okay, who the hell is this witch? And why won't anyone talk about her? Subaru was still very scared, so he asked Beatrice for a favor. He told her to protect him until the 5th day, so the librarian made a contract and agreed to do it. Later, on the 4th night, Subaru was having nightmares about being isekai'd by Rem, but he felt Beatrice's hands on his own, and things suddenly calmed down. Not long after, the librarian dragged Subaru into the library to protect him better until the 5th day. After a while, Beatrice was summoned, so she left Subaru in the library. Subaru was scared to go outside, but he did it anyway. When he saw the morning sun, he was so relieved. Amelia came not long after to see him, and he was just happy to see her. But while he was rambling about all the things he wanted to do with her, he heard a scream. It was Ram, crying over Rem's dead body. Subaru tried to get closer, but Ram slapped his hand away. Subaru went to the back of the room. Subaru wanted to tell them what was happening, but that fear was still gripping his heart. Ram demanded that he tell them if he knew something, but he just apologized and ran away. He ran to the forest and found a cliff, but he couldn't bring himself to jump. He fell asleep there, and when he woke up, Beatrice was right beside him. Apparently, she never put a time limit on their contract, so she was still obligated to protect him. But it didn't take long for Ram to find them. Subaru decided to face things head-on and fix things by resetting and doing better. So, in an effort to look heroic, he leapt off the cliff to his death. When Subaru came to and saw Rem and Ram, he held their hands to be reminded of their warmth, but they were just weirded out by him. Amelia came in, and Subaru was filled with joy once more. And with that, he started his new plan. He worked his butt off on the first day after telling Rosewall that he wanted to work in the mansion. The cooking, the cleaning, he did it all and more. After his morning duties, he went to lay down in the grass, and Puck came along. Puck admonished him for working so hard on his first day, but Subaru just said that he had more to do. Subaru asked about Amelia's magic, but Puck told him that Amelia didn't use magic. She instead used spirit arts. Puck explained the difference and told Subaru that everyone has a different magic attribute, along with a magic gate, which is used to control said attributes. This made Subaru excited, and he asked Puck to check what his own was. Subaru's attribute was Shadow, one of the rarer types. It was basically like debuff magic. Puck showed Subaru an example, and it was very terrifying. He couldn't talk or see or do anything. Talk about nightmare fuel. Subaru asked if he could do such spells too, and Puck said he could with the right training. They went ahead to try it out, but Subaru exploded his mana and wore himself out. Apparently, his gate isn't well used, so he's unable to control his magic output properly. While he was laying there, he realized that he couldn't move because his mana had been depleted. Amelia and Puck told him to rest, but Subaru refused and tried standing up anyway. So, Amelia gave him a fruit to eat that restores mana. Although, I'm sure Subaru would have preferred a different fruit from Amelia. Later that night, Subaru thought about all he did that day, and he felt like he did enough, but he still had no idea how to deal with the shaman attack. So he asked Beatrice if it was possible to nullify curses. Beatrice told him there wasn't, but if the curse hadn't been activated yet, then she could nullify it. Then Beatrice mentioned that Subaru smelled like the witch. Subaru asked who the witch was, and Beatrice explained. Finally, someone could tell us who she is. She was known as Satella, a witch who, long ago, devoured 6 other witches that bore the names of the deadly sins and drained half of the world dry. Beatrice went on about how terrible of a person the witch is. The next day, he did his routine yell of victory in the morning and went to rizz up Amelia afterward. Once he left to work, Amelia told Puck she was worried about him, and Puck agreed. He could tell that Subaru's mind was confused. Subaru spent all day trying to work and do good in the house, but he broke down in the bathroom and hurled his guts out. As soon as he finished, he left to continue, but Amelia was outside waiting for him. She took him back inside the room and put his head on her lap. And just like that, Subaru slowly started to break down into tears, and Amelia comforted him through all of it. Later that night, Subaru went to the library to meet Beatrice and rant about what happened with Amelia. Subaru got over himself and asked Beatrice more about curses. She told him that it needed physical contact to activate, and he recalled that he had only touched the villagers apart from the people at the mansion. So, he asked the girls to follow him to buy ingredients, and they agreed. Subaru went to town and was having a blast with the townsfolk. He taught them calisthenics and even his signature shout of victory. But his main goal was for everyone to touch him. Not sure why though, some sort of kink? After it seemed like he was done, a girl came up to him and directed him toward an open area. Apparently, her dog was there. The dog seemed to hate Subaru, and it even bit him, which was odd. I mean, sure, he's an obnoxious buffoon who likes to ramble a lot, but that's no reason to bite him. Or is it? I can't tell. Subaru went back home, and on his way in, Roswal was heading out to meet with someone, which hadn't happened before. Roswal asked Subaru to look after Amelia, and he flew off. Just casually took off to the skies. I wish I could fly too. Moving on, Subaru went to see Beatrice and asked her to check if he had been cursed. She didn't want to at first, but Subaru, with his sneaky ways, managed to convince her. She quickly identified the spot of the curse as the point where the dog bit Subaru. Subaru quickly realized that the kids who were playing with the dog were in danger of being cursed too. He ran to the sisters to ask for help, and as they were debating who would go, Amelia came downstairs. Subaru kept it hidden from her for her own safety, so Amelia gave him the blessings of the spirits so that he would return safely. He ran off with Rem, and when he got there, the village was a mess. Everyone was looking for the children. They had gone missing. Subaru feared he was too late, but he remembered another spot and went there to check. When he got there, he saw that the barrier in the forest had been broken. He also saw footprints leading into the forest, so he told the villager to call the rest and asked Rem to follow him to get the kids. Rem hesitated, but she noticed that he had steeled out his resolve, even though he was trembling. So she followed him in. It didn't take long before they found the kids, but they were all weak and on the verge of death. Rem got to healing the kids, but one of the kids, Petra, told Subaru that a girl was taken. Subaru immediately sprang into action and went to find her. Rem asked him why he was risking so much, and what if she couldn't find him, but Subaru knew that she'd always find him because he smelled like the witch. So, he made a promise not to die, and that after this was done, he'd have a long talk with Rem. She agreed and let Subaru go. Subaru searched for a while and found the kid, but as soon as he went to get her, a Maybeast attacked him. He managed to kill it, but there were multiple waiting in the shadows. He protected the girl and embraced his death, but Rem came along and isekai'd the beasts. Not today, Satan. She created a distraction and they ran toward the village, but as they were almost there, Subaru looked back and saw Rem in a banged up state. She lunged forward and pushed Subaru out of the way of an attack and fell on her head. As all hope seems lost, Rem stood back up and grew a horn from her head. Then she went beast mode and massacred the Maybeasts. As she was having her fun, a couple of Maybeasts ambushed her from up top. Subaru pushed her out of the way, but they attacked him and he passed out. Subaru woke up in a different place, but this time he didn't reset. They barely managed to save his life. Puck came out from under Amelia and gave Subaru the breakdown of what happened. Bottom line, the kids were safe and everyone was okay. Subaru went out and saw Ram outside. She stuffed a potato in his mouth for some odd reason and then told him basically what Puck did. This time, Subaru went around doing checkups on the kids to be sure they were okay. Once he saw that they were, he went out for a walk and saw Beatrice. Beatrice took him to a corner and told him that he only had half a day to live due to the curses inflicted on him when he got attacked by those beasts. Subaru didn't look scared in the slightest, and Beatrice was confused as to why. If only she knew. Subaru asked if there was a way to stop it, and Beatrice said there was. She explained that the curses would activate when the dogs replenished their mana, and he had to isekai them before that happened. Subaru then recalled hearing a voice while he was half asleep, saying that they would save him no matter what. He realized it was Rem. Beatrice confirmed that Rem had gone to isekai the beast for Subaru's sake. Ram overheard it and wanted to quickly rush to meet her. Subaru dragged her back and asked if she could fight as well as Rem. Ram said she couldn't, but she had very strong wind magic. With that said, Subaru made a plan and headed to the forest with Ram. When they got there, Subaru was already struggling to keep up. I mean, he had just woken up from a near-death experience, and he's already back to fighting. Of course he'd be struggling. Ram took care of most of the monsters as they kept going. When they had gotten far enough, the beasts started increasing in number. It wasn't long before Ram lost the strength to keep fighting. Subaru carried her and ran around until he jumped off a cliff. This guy has really taken a liking to cliffs lately. What's going on? He managed to make it to the ground with some quick thinking and Ram's magic, but Ram was tapped out and couldn't move anymore. Subaru tried a crazy tactic and talked about his death loop. This made the beasts want to come near him and isekai him due to the scent of the witch on him. As the dogs kept falling for it, Rem kept swinging her mace chain. Subaru then made another crazy move in order to stop Rem's rampage. He flung Ram at her and then ran to hit her on the head like Ram had told him, but it didn't connect because he chickened out at the last second. As soon as he got the next opening, he went in for the hit. Since they were born, Ram and Rem have always had a rough childhood. For starters, they were twins, and everyone believed twins were a bad omen. But Ram showed promise from a young age, and it made her grow into a prodigy that everyone loved and respected. But one day, while Rem was asleep, some people attacked the village, and Ram was keeping them at bay. But as soon as Rem came out, Ram got distracted, and the enemy used that to cut off her horn. But rather than feel sad, Rem felt happy that Ram lost her horn, and so she carried that guilt with her the whole time. When Rem came to, she saw that Subaru and Ram were carrying her back to safety. She asked Subaru why he came back knowing that he could die. Subaru gave her a quick headbutt and told her that it was always better to have more people on board than to take something on alone. Solid advice. But did he really have to give her the headbutt? Now I see how the snake Hashira felt when Tanjiro did it to him. The gang kept running for their lives, and Subaru asked which way would get them to town the fastest. After figuring out it was the left, he planned to use himself as a sacrifice and let the girls go. Why is everyone so eager to die today? He sent the girls off and went to face the beasts alone. Rem couldn't bear to run away and leave him behind, but Ram wanted to keep going. They both fell over, and Rem looked back to see what was happening. Subaru pulled out his only magic spell and blinded all the beasts in the area. Then he jumped up to stab the alpha beast in the chest, but it kept going even after that. Now that's an alpha right there. Just as Subaru seemed to have lost hope, Roswal came and cleaned up the beasts that were left. Once he was done, Rem jumped on Subaru, and he fainted. My man wasn't ready for all that loving at once. When he came to, he saw the familiar ceiling and thought he had reset everything, but he quickly noticed Rem's hand interlocked with his. Rem expressed how grateful she was that he saved her life, and in the same breath, criticized herself for not being as good as her sister. Subaru made her realize that it's okay for her to be better than Ram in a lot of areas. In fact, as far as he knows, she was objectively superior to Ram. And he added that even though he hadn't heard the circumstances that led to Ram losing her horn, it didn't matter. He just told Rem to use the horn enough for the both of them. Subaru told Rem to look forward to tomorrow and laugh because she had a tomorrow to look forward to. She worried that she'd have to rely on Subaru again, but he gladly welcomed the potential prospect of that happening. And with that, he comforted Rem. Out in the garden, Subaru and Amelia were talking about how Subaru always got hurt, but Amelia once again acknowledged that she was now in his debt. So he asked for the obvious reward, a date with her, and she said yes. The next day, Subaru and Amelia went back to do calisthenics with the townsfolk. He had become very popular with the kids, even though all he did was get bitten by dogs. Okay, nah, I won't do my boy dirty like that. When they got back, a carriage was in front of the house. It belonged to an emissary who had come concerning the royal selection. Amelia immediately had to go and leave Subaru behind. So, with nothing better to do, Subaru got the finest tea in the house and went to enjoy it with the butler outside. While they were talking, Subaru tried to ask him the reason for his visit, but he wouldn't budge. Just then, a girl with cat ears came to the carriage and wondered what was going on. Her name was Felix. It wasn't until Subaru went back inside that Roswal told him about Amelia's plans to visit the capital. Subaru immediately suggested that he go with her to help in any way he could. But Roswal also pointed out that it was best he got treatment for his magic gate while he was there too. When they got there, Amelia wouldn't let go of Subaru's hand. She was scared he'd go off and do some stupid things again. That's how I feel when my girlfriend is with me at the mall. Subaru stopped by the apple shop and made good on his promise to come back and buy some. Next, they wanted to go see Reinhard and Felt, so Amelia suggested going to the office of the guards. When they got there, Amelia was greeted by someone who recognized her from before. His name was Julius, and this guy was a hottie. But to make things worse, he knelt down and kissed Amelia's hand. Subaru was losing his mind. He was probably contemplating how to stab the guy and get away with it. Emilia then had to go in for a meeting with him, so Subaru could do nothing but stay outside like a good boy. While he was waiting outside, he saw a bunch of guys drag a woman into a corner. He went ahead to try and save her, but she slapped his hand off her with the quickness. The muggers turned out to be the same ones that mugged him on his first day in the parallel world. So rather than fight them, he just bluffed that he knew powerful people who could come and mess them up. Coincidentally, Ram happened to be passing by, so the muggers ran off. Ram and Subaru exchanged greetings, and Subaru thanked him for the save. But Ram asked Subaru if he had felt. Subaru told him that Reinhard took her, and Ram suddenly had a suspicious look on his face. Without saying much else, Ram left. On the way back, Emilia asked Subaru where he met the woman from. He thought she was being jealous, but after he realized she wasn't, she just told him to forget about the whole thing. At home, Emilia told Subaru to wait while she went to the meeting. She wanted him to relax and properly heal, so she made him promise not to overdo himself. But the promise didn't mean jack, because as soon as he could, he ran out and hitched a ride with the woman he saved earlier to the castle. Turns out she's also a candidate for the throne. Her name was Priscilla Bariel. When they got to the castle, Subaru met up with Emilia. She tried getting him to leave, but Roswaal cut in and told her not to fuss over it. Once the conference commenced, the leader of the Imperial Knights began the formalities, but a few of the others didn't care for that, so they hurried things along. Their reason for everyone gathering was because a new prophecy had been written down, saying that 5 candidates would compete. But there were only 4. Who was the last one? Suddenly Reinhard got called forward, and he presented the 5th and final candidate. It was Felt. What do you think happens in the episodes to come? Would you like us to make a part 2 of this video? Let us know by commenting part 2 in the comment section. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our daily updates.